What if the person you thought you knew turned out to be someone completely different? Rachel's heart raced as she stared at the man sitting across from her, the man who had just become her husband. It had been a whirlwind, a rushed decision to escape the heartbreak of her past, the betrayal that had shattered her trust and love. She never expected this, never expected to marry a stranger so quickly. But here she was, standing at the edge of a new beginning, or so she thought. She glanced at Ethan, his handsome face calm. But there was something about him that unsettled her. She had always been the cautious type, but with the way things had ended with Jack, the man who had cheated on her, she just needed to move on. Ethan seemed like the perfect escape, a chance at something new, a chance at happiness. But as the days passed, Rachel began to sense that something was off. There were subtle hints that Ethan wasn't being fully honest with her, and despite his charm and kindness, Rachel couldn't ignore the nagging feeling that he was hiding something. Late one night, she overheard a conversation between Ethan and someone on the phone. It was brief, but the words were enough to make her heart skip a beat. "I'll take care of it," Ethan said, his voice low, almost too calm. "I can't let her know the truth yet." Rachel froze, her breath catching in her throat. What truth? What was Ethan hiding from her? The next day, her suspicions grew when she noticed a text message pop up on Ethan's phone. She couldn't help but glance at it. Ethan S name was on the screen, but the message was from someone else, someone she didn't recognize. It was short, to the point. "Everything is set for the transfer. Make sure she doesn't find out." Rachel's heart sank as the weight of the message settled in. She had to know more. She needed answers. The man she had married was suddenly becoming a mystery, and she couldn't ignore the creeping fear that she had been duped again. Later that evening, she confronted Ethan as he sat on the couch, reading. His usual calm demeanor had returned, but Rachel wasn't fooled. She was done with the lies. Ethan, she said, her voice trembling with a mix of frustration and fear. "What is going on? Who is that person you've been talking to? What's this transfer you're planning?" Ethan looked up, his eyes widening slightly. He stood up, but there was no panic in his expression, just a quiet resignation. Rachel, he began, his voice steady. "There's something I need to tell you. Something you weren't ready to hear when we first met." Rachel felt her heart race. "What do you mean?" she demanded. Ethan took a deep breath. "I'm not who you think I am," he said softly. "I'm not just a regular guy. I'm not exactly from the life you imagined." Rachel stared at him, confused and angry. "What does that mean? What are you hiding from me?" Ethan hesitated before speaking again. Rachel, "I'm a billionaire. I didn't want to tell you because I was afraid you'd only want me for my money. But I should have trusted you more. I should have been honest from the start." The words hit Rachel like a slap in the face. A billionaire? She had married a man who had kept something so important from her. She felt betrayed all over again. But this time, the betrayal cut deeper. How could she have not known? How could she have fallen for a lie so easily? "So, everything about us," she said, her voice shaking, "was a lie? I was just another trophy to you." Ethan shook his head quickly. "No, Rachel. This wasn't about the money. I didn't want you to marry me because of who I was. I wanted you to marry me because of who I am. But I see now that I should have told you the truth." Rachel stepped back, her mind swirling with confusion, anger, and disbelief. "I need some time," she said softly. "I need time to think." She turned away, walking out of the room. The world she had just entered, the life she had just begun, was falling apart in front of her. But Ethan was right about one thing. She needed to decide. Could she forgive him for hiding such a huge part of his life? Could she trust him again, or was this a bridge too far? The answers were still unclear, and as Rachel walked away, she knew she had a long road ahead of her. The truth had been revealed, but was it enough to fix what had been broken? Maya's mind was racing as she stood in the hallway, her fingers trembling as she gripped the doorframe. Ethan had just told her the truth about his identity, and her world felt like it was spinning out of control. A billionaire? She had married a billionaire? How had she not known? She had been so focused on her own pain, her own need for escape from the betrayal of Jack, that she had never once questioned the man she had married. Now, everything about their relationship seemed tainted, as if the very foundation of their connection had been built on a lie. She felt betrayed, again, but this time, it wasn't just the man she had loved, it was herself. How could she have been so blind? The anger she had been holding back for years resurfaced, but it was mixed with a deep sense of confusion. Ethan had told her that he hadn't wanted her to marry him for his money, but how could she trust that now? She didn't know him. Not really. Ethan had been so perfect, so attentive, but now she wondered if all of that was just a facade. She had been a fool, hadn't she? The man she had married was hiding something so significant, something that could have changed everything. The more Maya thought about it, the more it hurt. The betrayal stung, but there was something deeper, a feeling of being trapped in her own decisions, in the life she had chosen. The future felt uncertain, and she wasn't sure what to believe anymore. But one thing was clear. She couldn't let Ethan off the hook. Not without getting answers. Not without understanding why he had kept such a huge part of his life hidden from her. Taking a deep breath, Maya walked into the living room, where Ethan was still sitting on the couch, his hands resting on his lap. He looked up when she entered, his expression soft but guarded. Maya, he said, his voice steady but filled with uncertainty. I know this is a lot to take in. Maya didn't know where to start. The questions were swirling in her mind, but the anger was the first to spill out. Why didn't you tell me? Why keep it a secret? She demanded. I've spent my whole life trusting people, Ethan, and now? I feel like I've just been another one of your lies. Ethan winced, but his expression remained calm. I didn't want you to love me for my money, he said quietly. I wanted you to love me for who I am. I didn't want you to see me as just a rich man. I wanted to be with you because I loved you, not because of what I have. Maya could hear the sincerity in his voice, but it wasn't enough. She wasn't sure if anything could be enough right now. You should have trusted me, Ethan, she said, her voice softening. You should have told me the truth from the beginning. Now, I don't know what to think. I don't know who you are. Ethan stood up slowly and walked toward her, his face filled with regret. I know I should have told you sooner, he admitted, his eyes meeting hers with a depth of emotion that made her heart ache. But I was afraid. Afraid that you would leave me if you knew the truth. I didn't want to risk losing you. Maya closed her eyes, shaking her head slightly. You didn't just risk losing me, Ethan, she said softly. You've broken my trust. And trust is everything. Without that, what do we have? There was a long pause between them, filled with the weight of everything that had been said. Ethan took a step closer, his voice earnest. Maya, he said gently. I'm not asking you to forgive me right away. I know I've hurt you, but I'm asking you to give me a chance. I know I can't undo the past, but I'm here now. I'm not going anywhere. Maya felt a lump form in her throat. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe that this man, the one she had married, was truly the man he claimed to be. But the wounds were still fresh, the betrayal too raw. She wasn't sure if she was ready to forgive him, let alone trust him again. I need time, Ethan, Maya said softly, her voice trembling slightly. I can't just jump back into this. I can't just pretend everything's okay. Ethan nodded, his expression filled with understanding. I'll give you all the time you need, Maya. I just want you to know that I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. Maya looked at him for a long moment, unsure of what the future held. She had given him a chance, but now, she wasn't sure if that was enough. She wasn't sure if she was ready to let him back into her life. But one thing was certain, she needed answers. And she needed time to figure out if she could trust Ethan again. The road ahead was unclear, but for the first time in a long time, Maya knew that she had to face the truth, no matter how difficult it was. And maybe, just maybe, Ethan could prove that he was worth trusting again. Maya sat on the edge of the couch, her hands gripping the fabric tightly. She had spent the night tossing and turning, her mind racing with the decision she had to make. The conversation with Ethan the day before had left her feeling drained, but the lingering thoughts about the trust she had given him, and how easily that trust had been shattered, kept her from sleeping. Ethan had tried to explain himself, but the reality of his secret life as a billionaire still felt like a betrayal. It wasn't just the wealth that bothered her, it was the fact that he had kept such an important part of his life hidden from her. Could she really be with someone who had kept so many secrets? Could she trust him again? The phone buzzed, and Maya looked at it hesitantly. It was a text from Ethan again. I know I've hurt you, Maya. I know you need time. But I want you to know that I am here, and I'll wait for you. Please don't shut me out. The message was simple, but it stirred something in Maya. She had always been the type to shut people out when they hurt her, but for some reason, she didn't want to do that with Ethan. She didn't know if it was because of the love she still felt for him, or if it was the hope that things could be different now. Either way, she knew that she couldn't avoid the situation forever. She needed to confront it head-on. But as she stood up from the couch and walked over to the window, she realized that confronting it meant confronting her own feelings. Could she really let go of the pain and let Ethan back into her life? The thought of starting over again, of trusting him once more, filled her with a mix of hope and fear. She had been hurt so deeply before, and the idea of going through that again made her stomach twist. But there was also a part of her that wanted to believe in Ethan. He had changed, hadn't he? He had been so different with the twins. He had shown up for them when it mattered. And maybe, just maybe, he was telling the truth now. The idea of their future together, a future she had once thought was impossible, made her heart race. But she couldn't ignore the doubt that still lingered. How could she move forward when the past was still haunting her? How could she open herself up to someone who had lied to her before? The more Maya thought about it, the more she realized that the decision wasn't just about Ethan. It was about her, too. She had to decide if she was ready to let go of the past, to move forward in a way that would allow her to heal. She couldn't keep carrying the weight of the past, but she also couldn't keep pretending it didn't exist. Taking a deep breath, Maya grabbed her phone and dialed Ethan's number. She didn't know what she was going to say, but she knew she had to hear his voice, to give him the chance to explain himself once more. The phone rang for a few seconds before Ethan picked up. Maya, he said, his voice filled with warmth and relief. I'm glad you called. Maya didn't waste any time. I've been thinking, she said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. And I don't know what to do. I don't know if I can trust you again, but I'm willing to give you a chance. There was a pause on the other end of the line, and Ethan let out a soft sigh. Thank you, he said quietly. I know I've made mistakes, but I swear to you, Maya, I will do whatever it takes to prove that I'm worthy of your trust. Maya closed her eyes, taking in his words. She could hear the sincerity in his voice, but there was still a part of her that wasn't ready to let go of the hurt. She needed more than just words. She needed time, but she also needed to see action. I'm not sure what this is going to look like, she said softly, but I need to see the real you. I need to see that you're not just saying what you think I want to hear. Ethan's voice softened, and for a moment, it was just the two of them, no walls between them. I understand, Maya, he said, and I'll show you. I'll prove to you that I'm not the man I was. I want this to work. I want you to believe in me again. Maya exhaled slowly, her mind still swirling with uncertainty. She didn't have all the answers, but for the first time, she felt a glimmer of hope. She didn't know what the future held, but maybe, just maybe, she could take this first step toward healing. The decision wasn't easy, but it was a start. And that, in itself, was something. Maya sat at the kitchen table, her fingers lightly tapping the surface as she stared out the window. The sun was beginning to set, casting a soft glow over the city. It had been days since the conversation with Ethan, and she still couldn't shake the weight of it. She wanted to believe him. She really did. But every time she thought about the truth he had revealed, the fact that he was a billionaire, she felt a wave of doubt wash over her. Was he telling the truth now? Or was he just trying to pull her back in with promises and lies? Her phone buzzed, pulling her from her thoughts. It was Ethan again. Maya. It read, I know I hurt you, and I don't expect things to be perfect. But I am here, and I'm ready to prove to you that I'm not the man I was before. I will be the person you deserve. Maya's heart fluttered, but she quickly pushed the feeling away. She couldn't afford to get lost in his words again. She needed more than promises. She needed actions. Taking a deep breath, she set her phone down and walked over to the couch, where the twins were playing. She watched them for a moment, their laughter filling the room, their innocence a reminder of why she had to get this right. The stakes were higher now. It wasn't just about her anymore. It was about them too. She couldn't afford to make the wrong choice. Ethan had already hurt her once, and though he had apologized, though he was trying to show her that he was changing, she couldn't ignore the fear that he might hurt her again. Maya had spent so long being strong for the kids, being the only one there for them when Ethan had disappeared. She had built a life for them, a life she was proud of, and now she was being asked to open herself up to him again, to let him back in after everything that had happened. Could she really do that? Was it worth it? The more she thought about it, the more unsure she became. She didn't want to be the one holding on to the past forever. But she also didn't want to make the same mistake twice. She needed answers. She needed to know if Ethan was truly ready to change, or if he was just saying what he thought she wanted to hear. The phone buzzed again, and this time, she picked it up. It was Ethan calling. Maya hesitated for a moment before answering. Maya. Ethan's voice came through the phone, filled with sincerity. I know I've asked a lot of you already, but I want you to know that I am here for you. I'm not going anywhere. I will show you that I can be the man you deserve. She closed her eyes, trying to calm the whirlwind of emotions inside her. Ethan, she said softly. I don't know if I can trust you again. I don't know if I can just forget everything that's happened. There was a pause on the other end. I don't expect you to forget, Maya, Ethan replied. I know I have to prove myself. And I'm willing to do whatever it takes to show you that I'm not the same person anymore. I want to be the man you can count on. Maya sighed, rubbing her forehead. She knew that Ethan was trying. She could see it in his actions, the way he had been there for the twins, the way he was trying to rebuild their lives together. But the fear still lingered. Could she really trust him again? Could she really let go of the hurt and the betrayal? The silence between them stretched out, and for a moment, Maya wasn't sure what to say. But then she realized something. She couldn't keep living in the past. She had to take a chance, for herself, for the twins, and for Ethan. She had to decide if she was willing to move forward, or if she would let her fear hold her back. I need time, she said finally, her voice steady. I need time to figure out what this is, what we are. But I'm willing to try. For the twins, for us. There was a long pause before Ethan spoke. Thank you, Maya, he said softly. I know it won't be easy, but I'm ready to do whatever it takes. As she hung up the phone, Maya felt a strange sense of peace settle over her. She didn't have all the answers, but she knew that this was a step toward healing. She wasn't sure what the future would look like, but she was ready to face it with Ethan, with the twins, and with the hope that, together, they could build something new. She walked over to the window, looking out at the city as the sun dipped below the horizon. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, Maya felt like she was ready to move forward, to let go of the past, and to take the first step toward healing. Maya paced around the living room, her heart racing. The decision she had made earlier still hung heavily in the air, but now, more than ever, the weight of her feelings for Ethan was overwhelming. She had agreed to try again, to give him a chance to prove himself, but doubt crept in like an uninvited guest. Could she really trust him? Could she forget the secrets and the lies? The phone buzzed on the coffee table, breaking the silence. It was a message from Ethan. I've been thinking about what you said. I'll do whatever it takes to show you that I'm not the man I was. I'm ready to show you who I really am. She picked up the phone, staring at the words. Her breath caught in her throat. The sincerity in his words made her chest tighten. But was it enough? Could it really be that simple? She put the phone down and walked over to the window, looking out at the city below. It was a peaceful evening, the sky painted in shades of purple and orange as the sun dipped below the horizon. But Maya couldn't shake the feeling that the calm outside didn't match the storm inside her. She had spent so much time building her own life, raising her children, and learning to live without Ethan. It had been painful, yes, but it had also been a time of growth. She had built something strong, something that didn't rely on anyone else. And now, she was being asked to let Ethan back in, to trust him again. Was she ready for that? Was she ready to let go of the walls she had built so carefully around herself? She thought back to the conversation they had earlier that day. Ethan had apologized, of course, but Maya couldn't help but wonder if words were enough. How could she be sure he wasn't hiding more? How could she be sure he wouldn't hurt her again? She didn't have all the answers, and maybe she never would. But as she stood there, looking at the life she had built, she realized that this was a new chapter. Whether Ethan was truly part of it was still uncertain. But one thing was clear. She couldn't keep holding on to the past. She had to face the future, whatever it held. And as much as she didn't want to admit it, Ethan was a part of that future now. She turned back to the phone and typed a quick response. We need to talk. I need to know what you want from this. She hit send, her finger lingering on the screen. She didn't know what to expect next, but she was ready to face it. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, she was ready to take a step forward. The decision wasn't easy, but it was hers to make. And as the phone buzzed again, she took a deep breath and prepared herself for whatever came next. Maya sat on the couch, staring at her phone in disbelief. The message from Ethan had been clear. I'm ready to show you the real me, to prove that I'm not the man I was. But even after hearing those words, something inside her still hesitated. It had been days since their last conversation, days since Ethan revealed the truth about his past, and every moment had been filled with a mix of confusion and doubt. Could she really trust him again? Could she let go of the hurt he had caused her? Her heart ached as she thought about everything Ethan had done for the twins. He had been there for them in ways that Maya had never expected, and maybe that was a sign of the change she had been hoping for. But the secrets, the lies, how could she move past that? She looked down at the photo of her children on the table. They were her everything, her reason for being. And Ethan had been a part of that, at least for the moment. She couldn't ignore what he had done for them. But trust wasn't something she could just give away. Trust had to be earned. And right now, Maya wasn't sure if Ethan had earned it. She had been hurt too many times before, and it wasn't just about forgiving him. It was about whether she could live with the fact that he had kept something so important hidden from her. Maya knew she needed answers, but she also knew that getting those answers wasn't going to be easy. She had to confront him again, and this time, it had to be different. She had to ask the hard questions, the ones that went beyond the surface, beyond the apologies. The questions that could determine whether their relationship had any chance of moving forward. Taking a deep breath, she stood up and walked over to the window. The city lights below glowed softly, and for a moment, she allowed herself to imagine a future where Ethan was truly part of her life. A future where she didn't feel the constant weight of uncertainty. But could she really trust him enough to make that future a reality? Could she allow herself to be vulnerable again? The doorbell rang, snapping her out of her thoughts. Her heart skipped a beat as she walked to the door and opened it. There he was, Ethan, standing on her doorstep, looking as calm and composed as ever, but his eyes were full of something else, something softer. Something that made her heart ache with the memory of the love they had once shared. Maya, Ethan said, his voice quiet but filled with sincerity. Can we talk? She nodded, stepping aside to let him in. As he walked past her, Maya couldn't help but notice the way he moved. There was a sense of purpose in his every step, as if he had something important to say. And maybe he did. Maybe this time, he would tell her the truth, the whole truth. But could she handle it? Could she hear it without her heart shattering all over again? They sat down in the living room, the silence between them thick and heavy. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then, Ethan finally broke the silence. I know you're still angry, Maya, he said softly. And I know I've messed up. I should have been honest with you from the start, but I was afraid. I was afraid of losing you. I thought that if you knew the truth, you'd see me differently. I didn't want you to love me for my money, Maya. I wanted you to love me for who I really am. Maya listened, her heart torn between the love she still felt for him and the hurt that had never fully healed. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe that Ethan had changed, that he wasn't the same man who had disappeared from her life without a word. But the scars from the past were deep, and every part of her was still afraid of being hurt again. I don't know if I can just forgive you, Ethan, she said, her voice trembling. I don't know if I can ever trust you again. Ethan looked at her, his eyes filled with pain. I understand, Maya, he said quietly, and I'm not asking you to forgive me right away. But I will do whatever it takes to prove that I'm not that man anymore. I'm not asking for your trust. I'm asking for a chance to show you that I can be the man you deserve. The words hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning. Maya felt the pull of his sincerity, but she wasn't sure if she was ready to take the leap. She had been hurt too much, too many times. But Ethan was right about one thing. He had shown up. He had been there for the twins, and maybe, just maybe, that was a start. I need time, Maya said, her voice soft but firm. I need to see that you're really committed to this. I need to see that this is something worth fighting for. Ethan nodded, his face filled with understanding. I'll give you all the time you need, Maya. I'm not going anywhere. As he left her apartment later that evening, Maya felt a shift in the air. She didn't have all the answers yet, but she was willing to take the first step. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, she felt a glimmer of hope. A glimmer that maybe, just maybe, Ethan was worth fighting for. Maya sat at the dining table, her fingers nervously tracing the edge of her coffee cup. The morning light streamed through the window, casting a soft glow on the room. But inside, her mind was far from peaceful. It had been a week since Ethan had left her apartment after their conversation, and though they had agreed to give things time, Maya couldn't shake the uncertainty that weighed heavily on her chest. Ethan had promised to prove that he wasn't the same man who had hidden his identity from her. But promises, as she had learned too many times, were often fragile. Could she truly trust him again? Could she move beyond the lie he had told her? And what about the future? She had built a life on her own terms, raised her children alone, and was fiercely protective of that life. The thought of letting someone back in, especially someone who had betrayed her trust so deeply, made her stomach churn. Her phone buzzed, pulling her from her thoughts. She looked at the screen. Ethan S name flashed there, and her heart skipped a beat. She had been avoiding his calls, but today something told her to pick up. Taking a deep breath, she answered. Maya. Ethan's voice came through, calm yet filled with emotion. I know you need time, and I respect that. But I just wanted you to know that I've been thinking about everything we talked about. I want to show you that I'm serious about this. I don't want to lose you again. Maya listened, her heart aching at the sincerity in his voice. She could hear the effort he was making, but it didn't erase the confusion that still lingered. Ethan, she said, her voice soft but firm. I don't know what to believe anymore. I don't know if I can just forget everything that's happened. There was a pause on the other end, and Ethan sighed, as if struggling to find the right words. I understand, Maya. I know I've made mistakes, and I don't expect things to go back to the way they were. But I want to earn your trust. I'll do whatever it takes to show you that I'm here for the right reasons. Maya leaned back in her chair, her eyes closed as she thought about everything he had said. Part of her wanted to believe him, wanted to believe that Ethan had truly changed. But there was a voice inside her, a voice that whispered doubts she couldn't ignore. Trust was something that couldn't be easily repaired. It took time, effort, and more than just words. Could she let go of the past and allow Ethan back into her life? Could she forgive him for keeping such a monumental secret? She exhaled slowly, the weight of the decision pressing down on her. Ethan, she said quietly. I'm not sure what the future holds. I don't know if I can trust you again, but I'm willing to try. But you have to show me that you're serious. You can't just say the right things, you have to prove it. Ethan was silent for a moment, and when he spoke again, his voice was filled with resolve. I will prove it to you, Maya. I'm not asking for your forgiveness right away. I just want a chance to show you that I'm not the man I was. There was a long pause between them. Maya wasn't sure if she was ready to believe him, but she knew one thing. She couldn't keep living in the past. She had to make a choice. I'll give you a chance, she said softly, but I need to see action, not just words. I need to see that you're committed to this. I need to see that you're willing to work for it. She could hear the relief in Ethan's voice as he responded. Thank you, Maya. I'll do whatever it takes. I promise. As she hung up the phone, Maya sat there for a moment, her heart still uncertain, but her mind made up. She wasn't sure what the future held, but she knew that she had to move forward, even if that meant taking it one step at a time. The journey ahead would be filled with challenges, but perhaps, just perhaps, it could also lead to something beautiful. She stood up, walked to the window, and looked out at the city below. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, she felt like she was ready to take that first step, to trust in the possibility of a new beginning. Maya stood by the window, gazing out at the busy city streets below. The world outside seemed to continue on without her, but within her, everything felt frozen. She had given Ethan a chance. She had decided to open herself up, to trust him again, but the weight of his secret still hung heavily in her heart. Her thoughts were interrupted by a soft knock at the door. Her heart raced, and for a moment, she considered not answering. But deep down, she knew that avoiding the situation wouldn't solve anything. Taking a deep breath, she walked to the door and opened it. There he was, standing in front of her, Ethan Starr. His face was calm, but there was something in his eyes that told her he was just as uncertain as she was. Maya, he said softly, his voice filled with a quiet sincerity. Can we talk? She stepped aside, letting him in. They both walked to the living room, the space between them feeling heavy with unspoken words. They sat down, and for a long moment, neither of them spoke. Ethan finally broke the silence, his voice steady but full of emotion. I know you're still unsure, Maya. I know you have every reason to be. but I want to show you that I'm not the same person I was. I want to prove to you that I'm worthy of your trust, and I'm not going to let you down again. Maya listened carefully, her heart torn between the desire to believe him and the fear of being hurt again. Ethan, she said, her voice trembling slightly. I want to believe you. I really do. But it's hard. You kept this huge part of your life from me. And now, I don't know what's real and what's not. Ethan's expression softened, and he reached out to take her hand. I understand, Maya. I've hurt you, and I can't change that. But I want to make it right. I want to rebuild what we had. I don't expect you to forgive me right away, but I'm asking for the chance to prove that I can be the man you deserve. Maya looked down at their hands, her heart racing. She had always been independent, always prided herself on being strong and self-sufficient. But with Ethan, it was different. There was a part of her that wanted to believe in the man who had shown up for her and the twins, who had tried so hard to be there when it mattered. But then there was the other part of her, the part that had been hurt so badly in the past. She couldn't forget that. She couldn't just erase the betrayal, no matter how much she wanted to move on. I need to know that you're not just saying what I want to hear, Maya said, her voice steady but firm. I need to see that you're serious about this, that you're willing to do whatever it takes to make things right. Ethan nodded, his gaze intense. I will, Maya. I will show you. I'll be patient. I'll wait for as long as you need. I just want you to know that I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. The sincerity in his voice made her heart ache. She wanted to trust him, to believe that this time, things would be different. But trust was something that couldn't be built overnight. It took time, effort, and consistency. And Ethan had to prove to her that he was ready to do all of those things. She took a deep breath, meeting his gaze. I'm willing to try, she said softly. But I need to see you follow through. I can't just jump back into this without knowing that you're really committed. Ethan squeezed her hand, his expression full of relief. I will, Maya. I promise. Maya stood up, looking out the window again. The city was bustling with life, and she felt as though everything around her was moving forward while she stood still, caught between the past and the future. She didn't have all the answers, but she knew one thing. She couldn't keep holding on to the past. She had to make a choice. And maybe, just maybe, Ethan was worth taking a chance on. Heart flutter. I can do that, Maya. I can show you the man I really am. As Maya looked into his eyes, she realized that this wasn't just about Ethan anymore. It was about her, too. She had to decide if she was ready to let go of her fears and trust again. She had to decide if she was ready to move forward. And though the road ahead was still uncertain, for the first time in a long time, Maya felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, they could make this work. She had given Ethan a chance, and now it was up to him to prove that it was worth taking. The future was still unknown, but Maya was ready to face it, step by step, with the hope that love, once broken, could be repaired. Maya sat in the quiet of her apartment, the gentle hum of the city outside filling the silence. The past few weeks had been a whirlwind. Ethan had tried to prove himself, and she had given him a chance. They had talked, and for the first time, Maya had allowed herself to open up. But even as the days passed, a sense of uncertainty lingered. She wanted to believe in him, wanted to trust that he had truly changed, but the pain of the past was still fresh in her mind. She had been hurt before, and she couldn't shake the fear that it could happen again. The twins had grown fond of Ethan, and she could see how much he cared for them. But for Maya, the real test was in how he would handle the hard times. Would he stay, or would he disappear again when things got tough? Her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of the doorbell. Thinking a lot about what you said, he began. And I've realized that I've made a lot of mistakes, not just with you, but with myself. I've spent so much of my life hiding from the truth, hiding from the people I love. I've been afraid of being vulnerable, of opening up to anyone, even you. But I can't keep living that way. Maya listened intently, unsure of what Ethan was trying to say. Was this another apology, another attempt to win her back? Or was this the real Ethan, the man she had been waiting for? I don't know if I can trust you again, Maya said softly, her voice filled with the pain she had tried to bury. I've been hurt before, Ethan. And no matter how much I want to believe you, I can't just forget everything that's happened. Ethan's expression softened, and he took a step closer to her. I know, Maya. I know I don't deserve your trust right now, but I'm asking you to give me a chance. Not because of the past, but because of what I'm willing to do for our future. I want to prove to you that I'm not just the man who lied to you. I'm more than that." His words hit her hard. Maya felt the walls she had built around her heart begin to crack, but the fear still lingered. Could she really open up again? Could she risk everything for someone who had kept so much from her? "I need to see you follow through," she said quietly, her voice firm but unsure. "I need to see that you're really committed to this, to me, to us. I can't keep living in the past." Ethan nodded, his face filled with determination. "I will, Maya. I'll do whatever it takes to show you that I'm here for you. I know it won't be easy, and I know I've let you down before. But I swear to you, I'm not the same man I was." Maya looked at him, her heart torn between hope and fear. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe that the man standing in front of her was the man she had fallen in love with, not the one who had lied and kept secrets. But could she really trust him again? She didn't know. But there was one thing she did. No, she couldn't keep living in the shadow of her past. She had to move forward, whether with Ethan or without him. "I don't know what the future holds," Maya said softly, her voice filled with uncertainty. "But I'm willing to take the next step. I'm willing to see where this goes, but only if you're truly ready to prove that you've changed. I need to see that you're in this for the right reasons." Ethan's face softened with relief, and for the first time, Maya saw a glimmer of hope in his eyes. "Thank you," he said quietly, his voice full of emotion. "I will prove it to you, Maya. I will show you that I'm not the man who hurt you. I'm the man you deserve." As Ethan left that evening, Maya sat in the quiet of the living room, her thoughts still racing. She didn't have all the answers, and she knew that the road ahead would be filled with challenges. But for the first time in a long time, she felt a spark of hope. Maybe, just maybe, they could find their way back to each other. The future was still uncertain, but one thing was clear. She was ready to take the first step. Maya sat on the edge of her bed, the soft hum of the city outside filling the silence of the room. The decision she had made weeks ago was still heavy in her heart, and despite her attempts to move forward, she couldn't help but feel stuck. Ethan had been trying. He had shown up, proved his sincerity with every word, every action, but the past lingered like a shadow, following them wherever they went. She wanted to believe in him, to believe that this time, things could be different, but the fear of being hurt again gnawed at her. She had built a life without him, a life that was hers and hers alone, and to let him back in meant risking everything she had worked so hard to create. The phone buzzed on the nightstand, pulling her out of her thoughts. It was a message from Ethan. "I know things aren't perfect, but I'm here. I'm still here, waiting for you." Maya stared at the message for a long time, her fingers hovering over the screen. She had been avoiding his calls, unsure if she was ready to open. That door again. The door that had been slammed shut in her heart months ago, when she had discovered the truth. But his message stirred something inside her, a sense of longing, a wish for things to be different, for them to be different. She took a deep breath, her heart pounding, as she typed a response. "I'm ready to meet, but only if you're prepared to show me the real you." She hit send before she could second-guess herself. The reply came almost immediately. "I will, Maya. I promise. I'll be waiting." A part of her wanted to throw her phone away, to run from this all over again, but another part of her, one that had been buried deep inside, wanted to see if Ethan could keep his word. Could he prove that he was not the man he once was? Could he be the partner she needed? The one who could stand by her side, no secrets, no lies? She walked to the window, gazing out at the sprawling city. She had always loved the view from her apartment. It had been her sanctuary, the place where she could think and reflect in peace. But now, it felt like a prison, a reminder of everything she was afraid to lose. Her children, her independence, her heart. What if Ethan wasn't truly changed? What if he was just playing a game to win her back? She had to know. She couldn't live in uncertainty any longer. The sound of a knock at the door pulled her from her thoughts. Ethan was here. Taking a deep breath, Maya walked to the door, her heart thudding in her chest. She opened it slowly, and there he was, standing on the other side, looking exactly the same, but somehow different. His eyes were filled with emotion, his stance more open, as if he were ready to bare his soul. Asterisk Maya asterisk, he said softly, his voice steady, but there was a vulnerability in it that made her heart ache. "Can we talk?" She nodded, stepping aside to let him in. They walked into the living room, the space between them still heavy, filled with the tension of everything unsaid. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then, Ethan broke the silence. "I know I've hurt you," he said, his voice filled with sincerity. "And I don't expect things to be perfect, not right away. But I'm asking for a chance to prove that I've changed, that I'm not the same man who lied to you. I want you to see me for who I am now." Maya looked at him, her emotions a whirlwind. She wanted to believe him. She really did. But could she? Could she trust him again after everything that had happened? "You keep saying that," Maya said quietly, "but words aren't enough. You've lied to me, Ethan. And now, you're asking me to believe that you're different? That you've really changed?" Ethan's eyes softened, and he stepped closer. "I know I can't undo the past, Maya. But I'm willing to do whatever it takes to prove that I'm here for you. For us. I don't want to lose you again. I don't want to live without you." Maya felt her heart tug at his words, but the fear still lingered. "I need to see that you're truly committed," she said, her voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside her. "I need to see that you can be the man I need, not just someone who promises to change." Ethan nodded slowly, his face filled with determination. "I will, Maya. I'll show you. I'm not going anywhere." Maya exhaled slowly, her mind racing. She didn't have all the answers, but she knew that if she was going to move forward, she couldn't keep running from the past. She had to face it. And maybe, just maybe, Ethan was worth taking a chance on. She wasn't sure what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, she felt like she was ready to take that next step. "Okay," Maya said softly, her voice steady. "Let's see where this goes. But you have to prove it, Ethan. I need to see that you're in this for the right reasons." Ethan smiled, a small, genuine smile that made her heart flutter. "I will. I promise." As Maya watched him leave later that evening, she realized that the road ahead was uncertain. But for the first time, she felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe this time, Ethan would keep his promise. Maybe this time, things could be different. She didn't know what the future held, but she was willing to find out. Maya sat in the quiet of her living room, the soft hum of the city drifting through the window. It had been weeks since she had agreed to try again with Ethan, but the weight of her decision was still heavy on her heart. Every conversation, every moment with him, seemed to open up a new chapter, one filled with uncertainty and lingering doubts. Could she really trust him again? Could she allow herself to be vulnerable after everything he had put her through? The past wasn't something that could be easily forgotten, and Maya knew that no matter how much she wished to move forward, the scars of betrayal still lingered beneath the surface. She looked at the clock, noticing that it was nearly time for Ethan to arrive. He had texted her earlier, saying that he wanted to meet in person to talk about their future. She had agreed, though she wasn't entirely sure what to expect. Would he be the man who promised to change, or would he return to the one who had lied to her before? As the doorbell rang, Maya felt a flutter in her chest. She opened the door to find Ethan standing on the other side, looking as calm as ever, but his eyes held a hint of uncertainty. Maya, he said softly. "I'm glad you agreed to meet. Can we talk?" Maya nodded and stepped aside to let him in. They sat down in the living room, the atmosphere between them heavy with unspoken words. Ethan took a deep breath, clearly searching for the right words. "I know I've hurt you," he began, his voice steady but filled with regret. "And I understand if you're still unsure about me. I don't expect you to trust me right away, but I need you to know that I am committed to this. I want to prove to you that I'm not the man who walked away before. I'm not the man who lied to you." Maya listened closely, her heart torn. She could hear the sincerity in his words, but there was still a part of her that hesitated. Ethan, she said softly, her voice trembling. "I want to believe you. But how can I? How can I forget everything that happened? You kept such a huge part of your life from me. I don't know how to move past that." Ethan looked down for a moment, as if gathering his thoughts. When he looked up again, there was a quiet determination in his eyes. "I can't change the past," he said, his voice steady. "But I can show you the man I am now. I'm here, Maya. I'm here because I want to make things right. I want to rebuild what we had, but I know that I can't do it alone. I need you to be a part of it, but I understand if you're not ready yet." Maya felt a lump form in her throat. The emotions she had been trying to keep at bay suddenly flooded her. Ethan had always been so perfect in the beginning, so attentive and loving. She had believed in him, trusted him with everything she had, only to have it all come crashing down. But now, as she listened to him speak, something inside her began to stir. Maybe he wasn't the man he had been before. Maybe, just maybe, he was telling the truth. Ethan she said softly. I don't know if I can just forget everything. It's not that easy. But I want to believe that you've changed. I want to believe that the man who hurt me isn't the same man standing in front of me now. Ethan reached out, his hand gently brushing against hers. I know it's not easy, Maya, but I'm asking you to give me a chance to prove it. I'll do whatever it takes, no matter how long it takes. I want to show you that I'm worthy of your trust, and I won't stop trying until I do. Maya looked down at their hands, the weight of his words settling over her. She had been hurt before, and the fear of being hurt again still clung to her like a shadow. But there was also a part of her that still loved Ethan, a part of her that wanted to believe that they could find their way back to each other. I'm willing to try, she said softly, lifting her gaze to meet his. But I need to see actions, Ethan. I need to see that you're committed to this. You've promised before, but this time, it has to be different. I can't keep giving my heart to someone who's not ready to give theirs. Ethan smiled, a small, genuine smile that made Maya's heart flutter. I will, Maya. I promise. I'm not going anywhere. I'll prove it to you every day. For the first time in a long time, Maya felt a spark of hope. It wasn't going to be easy, and she wasn't sure where this path would lead, but she was willing to take the first step. Ethan was there, and maybe, just maybe, they could rebuild what had been broken. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, Maya felt like they had a chance. And maybe that was enough. Maya stood by the window, the city skyline stretching out before her, bathed in the soft light of the setting sun. The past weeks had been a roller coaster of emotions, hope, doubt, fear, and a growing sense of possibility. Ethan had kept his promises, and every day, she saw him trying, really trying, to show her that he was a man she could trust. He was there for her and the twins in ways that made her heart swell, but there was still a small, stubborn part of her that held back. She couldn't shake the nagging doubt that lingered. Could she really let go of the past and give him a clean slate? Could she risk everything for a man who had once betrayed her trust? The sound of a car pulling up outside snapped her from her thoughts. She knew it was Ethan. He was always punctual, always there when he said he would be. The past few weeks had been full of moments just like this, and while she appreciated his consistency, it still felt like she was walking on a tightrope. Taking a deep breath, she walked to the door. When she opened it, Ethan was standing there, smiling softly, his eyes filled with warmth. He looked so much like the man she had fallen for all those years ago. But now, there was something more, something that showed he had grown, that he had learned from the mistakes he had made. Maya, he said, his voice soft. Can we talk? She nodded, stepping aside to let him in. They walked into the living room, the familiar silence of their shared space settling between them. Ethan took a seat on the couch, his gaze never leaving hers. For a moment, neither of them spoke, the weight of the conversation hanging in the air. Finally, Ethan broke the silence, his voice steady but full of emotion. I know I've said this before, but I need you to hear me, Maya, he began. I know I hurt you. I can't take that back, and I don't expect you to forgive me right away. But I need you to know that I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. I've changed. I've spent so much time thinking about what we've been through, and I'm ready to prove to you that I'm not the same man I was. Maya listened closely, her heart torn. She wanted to believe him. She really did. She wanted to believe that the man in front of her was the man she had always known, the man who had been her partner in so many ways. But how could she be sure? How could she know for certain that this time, Ethan was telling the truth? I need more than just words, Maya said softly, her voice firm despite the uncertainty in her heart. I need to see that you're truly committed. I need to see that you're not just saying the right things to get back in. I need to see that you've really changed, Ethan. Ethan nodded slowly, his expression serious. I understand, Maya. I know words aren't enough. And I'm not asking for your trust right away. But I'm asking for a chance to show you, to prove to you that I'm the man you deserve. I want to build a life with you, with the twins, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make that happen. But I need you to be a part of it. Maya felt her heart twist. She wanted to believe him, wanted to believe that this was the moment when everything would change. But she was still scared. The fear of being hurt again, of trusting the wrong person, was a powerful thing. I'm not asking for everything to be perfect, Ethan continued, his voice low but filled with conviction. I'm not asking for you to forget what happened. I'm just asking for the chance to prove that I've changed. That I'm here for the right reasons, not just for myself, but for you, for us. Maya looked at him, her thoughts swirling. Could she really take that leap of faith again? Could she trust him enough to give him a second chance? For so long, she had done everything on her own, raising the twins and building a life that was independent of Ethan and his mistakes. But now, as she looked at him, she realized that maybe it wasn't about forgetting the past. Maybe it was about moving forward together, one step at a time, and learning to trust again. I'm willing to try, Maya said softly, her voice steady but filled with emotion. But you have to understand, Ethan, this isn't going to be easy. Trust is something that has to be earned, and I need to see that you're truly committed to this. I need to see that you're willing to work for it, not just say the right things. Ethan smiled, a small but genuine smile that made her heart flutter. I will, Maya, he said, his voice filled with sincerity. I'll do whatever it takes. I'm not going anywhere, and I'm not giving up on us. Maya stood up, walking over to the window. She looked out at the city below, her thoughts racing. The future was still uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, she felt a glimmer of hope. Ethan was trying, and maybe, just maybe, they could make this work. She didn't have all the answers, but she was willing to take the first step. For the twins, for Ethan, for herself. The future was waiting, and it was up to her to decide what came next. And for the first time, Maya felt like she was ready to take that step forward, into the unknown. Maya sat in the living room, the gentle hum of the city outside filling the silence. The last few weeks had been a journey of healing, understanding, and rediscovery. Ethan had kept his promise. He had shown up, day after day, proving that he was no longer the man who had left her heartbroken. He had patiently worked to earn her trust, and though there were still moments of doubt, Maya couldn't ignore the progress. They had talked about everything, the past, the future, their mistakes, their growth, and with every conversation, the walls that she had carefully built around her heart began to fall. But there was still a lingering question. Was she ready to take the next step? Was she ready to let Ethan fully back into her life, into her heart? The phone on the table buzzed, breaking the stillness. Ethan had sent her a message. I've been thinking about what you said. I know I still have a lot to prove, but I want you to know that I'm here for you. I'm ready to move forward, with you, if you are. She stared at the screen, her heart pounding. Ethan had been patient, loving, and committed, but what about her? What about her own fears, her own uncertainties? Could she really put her past behind her and trust him again? She wanted to believe in him. She wanted to believe that the man who had hurt her was gone. But could love truly conquer all the wounds that had been left behind? Taking a deep breath, she stood up and walked to the window. The view of the city spread before her, vast and beautiful, and for a moment, she allowed herself to imagine the future. A future with Ethan, a future that was still uncertain but full of possibilities. Could she embrace it? Could she open her heart again and take a chance? The doorbell rang, snapping her from her thoughts. Her heart skipped a beat as she walked toward the door. She knew it was Ethan, and though she had asked for time, part of her knew that this moment was inevitable. She had to face him, to confront the feelings that she had buried for so long. She opened the door, and there he stood. His eyes were filled with something new, something different, something that made Maya's heart race. It wasn't the same look he had given her when they first met. This time, it was a look of understanding, of a man who had grown and learned from his mistakes. Maya, Ethan said softly, his voice full of sincerity. I'm here. I want to be with you, but I also understand that this is your decision. I'm ready to move forward, but only if you are. Maya felt a lump form in her throat. The weight of his words hit her, and for a moment, she struggled to find her voice. But when she spoke, her words were clear. I'm ready to try, she said softly, her voice steady, though her heart still raced. But it's not going to be easy, Ethan. We've both made mistakes, and I need to see that you're truly committed to this. I need to see that you're in this for the right reasons. Ethan nodded, his eyes never leaving hers. I am Maya. I'm here because I love you, and I'm ready to prove it to you, every day. I'll do whatever it takes to show you that I'm not the man I was. I'll earn your trust. Maya took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the decision that still hung over her. She had spent so long protecting herself, guarding her heart from the possibility of pain. But now, she realized that she couldn't keep living in the past. She couldn't keep holding on to the fear that had controlled her for so long. She had to take a leap of faith, for herself, for Ethan, and for the future they could build together. "Okay," she said softly, her heart full of both fear and hope. "Let's see where this goes. But you have to understand, Ethan, I can't forget everything that's happened. But I'm willing to try. I'm willing to move forward, but only if you're truly ready to prove that you've changed." Ethan smiled, his face lighting up with relief and gratitude. "I will, Maya. I will prove it to you, every single day." As Ethan stepped forward and gently took her hand, Maya felt something inside her shift. It wasn't the sudden rush of passion that she had felt when they first met. It was something deeper, something more grounded. She was ready to give this a chance. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, and there would be moments of doubt and fear. But for the first time in a long time, Maya felt like she was ready to face the future, whatever it held. She was ready to trust again, to love again, and to take that first step into the unknown with Ethan by her side. The journey ahead was still uncertain, but she wasn't afraid anymore. She had made her decision. And for the first time in a long time, Maya knew she was ready for whatever came next.